Alrighty, so just thought I'd put this video together, for some friends about basically how, Lendflow was stolen from me. I think it's a lesson to learn in paperwork, getting your documentation right, who to trust, who not to trust, when to quit and step aside. So, I was working with John for many years, as a business partner. It was definitely a rocky hill. John Fry was never an easy person to work with. Moods were up and down. Sometimes he was happy, sometimes extremely aggressive. Some nights I remember dealing with police and other things like that. So, emotionally, it was very, very tiring, but with all business owners, there's probably a level of eccentricity. But one day I came up with the idea of Lendflow, seeing how I'd performed widget development before and how we could integrate widgets into websites. So I got together and John and I agreed to set up this new company, Lendflow, and 50-50 split. Um, and, I went through and built the product. So, I went through and I built a UI front end, which used iframes and injections. We used Camunda as the back end and used different workflow engines to be able to take people's requests, feed it into different payment gateways, different financial gateways like Flora Financial and all the others on deck, I think, and all the others. So I use Camunda that would go through a process of underwriting, automatic underwriting, work out where it would classify, would push the deals out through the APIs to get a response, to get an automatic deal, to be able to respond to the user, and then have to go through the flow. As part of that backend, there was a whole user management for salespeople and for underwriting, where it's kind of different role base and it was very human task driven. So, when we get a quote and follow ups and things like that, the CRM, the like I guess it's like a CRM would take control and it would tell the agents what they need to do and how they need to do it through that process. And I still have the original code. I still have it all in my repos. So, I'm happy to share that with anyone who's interested in that product because I mean it's already been taken away from me. How I lost it? I mean, John basically working, having that company with John, the story was there was no money and we couldn't get paid. And this was for almost a year. I had to do a lot of secondary jobs just to pay the bills and just to eat, basically. And when we set up Lendflow, we had an agreement 50-50, but he'd done some nasty little tricky things. And it's my fault too. I never checked the documentation. He set up an S Corp and the way the shares were allocated, I wasn't a US citizen. It was nothing was under my name. And he reassured me. I kept on demanding, where is my paperwork? Where is my name? And then nothing, nothing, nothing. And then he brought in an associate and to do sales and marketing and basically blocked me out of the company. Um, so it was a very nasty experience, but from the feedback I got, the original software, the original systems, it was all based on the systems that I built. So, I think it was a lot of mental abuse from John, especially when you have no money. He really, really bankrupted me. He really drained every cent out of my account, putting me in a very disparate situation. And that put him in a very powerful situation because he was taking money and he was using it without even letting me know. So, be very careful and keep an eye on your finances. Don't let your business partner, one business partner control all the finances. That was a extremely hard lesson to learn because I'm a very trusting person and to get manipulated that way was very hard. Now, this is a long time ago and at the foundations of Lendflow. So, that's what he did. In theory, I should own 50% of the company, at least at that point in time. I'm sure it's gone through dilution many, many times already. Um, but yeah, I think the lessons there, just for other people is, um, have your exit clause, your entry clause, your agreements, get them signed, put them in third-party references, which, I had some, but, obviously the day that John decided to take control, he just ripped out all the permissions. I couldn't get access to documents. I couldn't get access to any information. So it was really, really underhanded activity and no real, attempt. I don't really, you know, I personally, it's like I couldn't deal with the financial manipulation anymore and the tricks as I discovered more and more details about what he's been doing. It's just it was just very depressing, and he was sending me very depressed. Um, I think also having probably a third party involved where you're talking to a business coach or having a reference, I think is a very good idea for anyone starting a business. And I mean, business is changing with AI and dynamics, but these relationships can get very, very messy quickly, especially when greed sets in, which it did there. So, you know, having put in the code and the effort and setting up the team and setting up a sales team in Philippines and Nicaragua and all sorts of things that were done, I mean, pre-Lendflow and during Lendflow, all that work I never got a cent for. I think I think $10,000 in like 2, 3 years. So it was a nightmare. Very, very stressful situation. And by the time, it was very kind of suicidal, I guess, at the end. So those things really, it's like water torture. I mean, it's easy to say in retrospect and easy to say, oh, you should have left or you should have done this in the moment. But when you don't see it all happening in one go, it just kind of gets to you, when you have someone that's always trying to cheat you. And I don't even know if John meant to be cheating me or not. It's just his mentality. It was just his personality. Like, I think thinks he deserves everything. And I guess that's how he was brought up, or, well, not really. I don't even know if that's the case, but it was, it was just the way he was. But yeah, I think running a company is more than just the trust in your business partner. I mean, you should have some distrust as well, which is hard for me. I don't like doing work like that. I trust my business partners now a lot. So I do have that very big trust, and I think getting the paperwork, getting the formalities, getting how you exit, how you entry into the business is super important. So every time I've done this in the past, there's agreements of how to exit if you're not happy, how that's going to be rewarded or not rewarded, how much the buy-in is, what happens if the partnership becomes unbalanced. Having a 50-50 partnership is messy because there's no balance. Sometimes, like, John would obviously talk to me, and other times decisions were made behind my back, which was, it felt very manipulative decisions. Even if we all need momentum and decisions, but big decisions, should go to the board, should be discussed and agreed upon. So, but it's very hard when you're a small group. But yeah, I mean, all those system, I think even today they're still using the same code, the same process. I'm sure it's been updated and refactored quite a lot since I worked there. But yeah, it was all set up. Said happy to share that code with anyone who is interested. But I think this is just kind of a warning that when you're in a fast moving area and technology, it's just be careful and just spend the effort to do the paperwork, even if it's your best friend or whatever. Just that paperwork takes out the arguments, it takes out the disagreements, it takes out the manipulation. And when money does come, um, people get greedy, people get manipulative, and people change who they are. So that's just my warning for others. And a story about how I lost that company through manipulation and, I guess in some ways mental torture in what happened there. So, a long, long time with basically put into like poverty. So, but since then, leaving and going, my mental health got very good very quickly. So that was definitely an upside by just departing. Um, should have done more to retain my certain shares and things for sure. I mean, just dumping that after so many years is was a big loss, very sad loss at that time. But being not tortured, mentally tortured anymore was a great thing. It provided a lot of freedom. Getting away from the drugs and stuff also a very good thing as well. So, that was a good change. Um, yeah, I'm just putting this video together because some people ask me about my negative stories and things to avoid. And as I said, I guess I cycle back to if you're going to set up a company, um, trust your partners, of course, but have everything written down, have a third party, have your agreements for exit, have your agreements for entry, make it very clear what effort is involved from everyone, how you structure your buy-ins, your options, or your KPIs that you're going to do to make sure you deliver. And I think that's the moral of the story here. And yeah, just thought I would share how how that happened and how that occurred in the past. And I guess trusting people, as I said, setting up an S corp and not seeing my name or paperwork or anything really screwed me. I just didn't have any recourse. It was just, a constant story of this is okay, everything is fine, it's legal, but at the end of the day it wasn't. And you know, I have to take my blame on that side for not getting my own accountant. I had no money, so of course I was trying not to spend money, but I should have had my own accountant or legal, business people or Zoom or whatever it's called. One of those practices kind of make sure that I was secure and everything I'd done was in the right legal way. So, yep, I hope others can kind of learn from that lesson and learn how these mistakes happen in life. And um, and yeah, so it's a interesting story, but I thought I would share that.